Hey folks, welcome back to West Yorkshire Retro Gamer. It's prediction time again. Thankfully, my team, Leeds United, are not in the Championship this season, so that means that there's not going to be any bias on my side, which is a rare one when it comes to Leeds. So I've got transfer marked up, which will tell me who has been signed so far and who's been let go. So I'm going to use that as a little bit of a guide. I don't know how accurate it is or anything. And then we'll put the clubs into the tier list that you can see on screen now. So the top 2 for promotion, the next 4 for the playoff places, rest of the top half, most of the bottom half, and then the bottom 3 for relegation. Still quite early on with it being 1st of July, still plenty more transfers that can be made. It's a new PSR period now, I believe, as well. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but I think it is now. So we may expect to see quite a bit more transfer action in the Championship for this coming season. But in the meantime, let's just have a stab at this and see how we get on. Some of these teams, I don't really know who's still in the squads, but I've just got the transfers up rather than the full squads. So we'll go through it alphabetically because that's what Transfermarkt's got them all on in terms of the transfers. So starting with the new boys, Birmingham. Obviously very richly owned, and a lot of people's picks for at least a top 6 position. I'm not so convinced yet. I mean, they did destroy League One, but there was a massive gulf in terms of them. They spent about £30 million, and Leeds United also spent £30 million in that same summer, and they were a division above. So that kind of shows the gulf at that level. I think Championship's going to be a little, top end Championship is going to be a different animal for Birmingham. They've brought in experienced centre back Phil Newman from Hanover. Taylor Gardner-Hickman looks like he's joined them. He's gained a bit of experience with a couple of loan spells in recent seasons, so should be a useful addition. Looks like they've also brought in a Dutch, from the Dutch league, from FC20. It looks like they've signed an Icelandic right back as well in Alphonse Samsted. And then by the looks of it, a couple of kids, I think. So not as much transfer activity with Birmingham's incomings as I expected, to be fair. I thought they would probably have done a little more. I'm going to say top half for Birmingham. I'm not going to put them in specific positions like I have done on previous predictions, but I think they can finish top half, but I think they might finish maybe somewhere around maybe 7th or 8th, which would, that'd equate to a very good first season back, wouldn't it, really? Moving on. Blackburn had a pretty good season, didn't they, really? Everyone tipped them for relegation last season when losing Smodics, and they actually did pretty well, and obviously they had a managerial change partway through the season that wasn't even their fault. So it's one of those, really. But whilst they're owned by the Venkies, you never really know what you're going to get with Blackburn, and their form was very up and down all season, but still a much better performance last season than what most expected. I have to admit, early on I had them relegated. But In terms of incomings, they've signed a Portuguese midfielder called Sidney Tavares and a Belgian left winger called Dion Deneve. I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, both of those transfers are relatively small-ish. I mean, it looks like they've spent a couple of €1 million on Tavares. So I mean, it's difficult. I think whilst owned by the Venkies, it's always going to be difficult. I think for Blackburn, players going out. They've lost the two experienced players, Danny Batt and Andy Vyman, both to Derby, and then the rest of them are relatively young by the looks of things. So I'm going to say kind of like top end of the bottom half for Blackburn, I think. Yeah. Bristol City. Now they had a very good season last season, obviously reaching the playoffs, which I don't think anyone had them quite that high. I had a mid-table. It's what most people tend to have Bristol City in the Championship these days, isn't it? In terms of transfers, they've brought in experienced goalkeeper Joe Lumley, and also Preston's former striker Emil Rees, the Dane. Rees could be a decent addition. Lumley, I mean, if they keep O'Leary, then surely Lumley's been brought in as a backup, you would think. Looks like they might have made, because I think Hirakawa was there originally. Maybe he was on loan and they've made it permanent, perhaps. Possibly. They've also brought in Adam Randall from Plymouth. Not a bad signing. So there's a couple of decent players in that bunch there. I don't know how many of those will get into the first 11 regularly, but it certainly adds a little bit of depth to the squad, so it won't do them any harm. In terms of players out, looks like they've lost experienced Naismith. Who else? They finally let Naki Wells go. About bloody time. Yeah, I don't know. Like Wells has passed his best. I'm surprised he was there as long as he were. In terms of Bristol, where are we going to put them? They haven't lost anyone that's going to be key, I don't think. And they have brought in a couple of players that have, effectively will enhance the squad a little bit. I'll say bottom end, top half, I think, for now. I may jig some of these around a little bit, as we go through, but I don't think they've lost anyone that's particularly crucial to their season, and they have added a couple of decent squad additions, so we'll say that for them. Charlton, another one of the new boys. Up to now, it looks like they've only brought in Sonny Carey, who was at Blackpool in League One. There is talk that Charlton are spending about £1 million on bringing Kaminski, the goalkeeper, in. His time at Blackburn, he was a good goalkeeper. His time at Luton, he was terrible. So it depends what version of Kaminski you're going to get. But he is experienced at Championship level now. So, I mean, £1 million for a newly promoted League One side that are not heavily backed financially. It's quite a chunk of cash, isn't it? I mean, they'll have brought in some money for Thierry Small, who would have gone on a tribunal, I believe. He's gone to Preston, the young fullback. So maybe they're using some of the money from the tribunal there, because I believe he's left on a free transfer. But obviously, being only 20-year-old, there's going to be a fee involved. So maybe that's where that money's coming from, perhaps. Charlton came through the playoff, if I remember right. I think they might struggle. I mean, Small's a good prospect, apparently. The other players that have gone, I mean, Chukwuemeka's left, he's without a club, but I mean, he's quite experienced. Bozanic, the Australian goalkeeper, he's gone, but again, he's always been a backup. Danny Hilton's retired now. I'm going to say Charlton could be one of the first ones relegated. I mean, if they make some decent signings, then maybe they stay up. But I'm going to say for now, Charlton could go down. They need more reinforcements. The fact they've only brought in Sonny Carey, and you know, not replaced, you know, like not brought in new players or anything like that. They're gonna need to make some signings. They need a stronger squad. Moving on to Coventry. Already, you know, like Charlton, they've already got a decent squad. They've brought in a Spanish fella, Miguel Angel Brown, a relatively young left back from Granada. Looks as if they might be getting Kessler-Aden as well. He's had a couple of loan spells in the Championship now. He's gained quite good experience over the last couple of years. Let's see who they've let go. Jimmy Patterson, but I mean he's getting on a bit now. He's 33. He's obviously experienced, but that's as far as that goes. Yeah, so I mean with that, I mean they've not lost any key players so far, and I would think that if Coventry wanted to bring in some more players, they possibly could do. For now, I'm going to say Coventry top half. As I say, I might need to rejig some of these because, you know, we're going to run out of positions. We haven't got anyone so far for top two or the playoffs. Coventry's, out of this bunch, Coventry's the closest to it, I would say, possibly. Maybe Birmingham. Or Bristol. I mean, all three of those actually could get into the playoffs. And it's squeeze, maybe even Blackburn, but we'll move on for now. I'm happy with where things are at the minute. Derby. They've really gone for experience here, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. Bat at the back is going to be solid enough. Vyman up front, squad player, knows the division well. Carlton Morris, if he can recapture the form that he had before last season, a very good finisher at this level. And in my opinion, Carlton Morris is far better than any other striker that Derby's got at the moment. So I think he goes straight into the starting 11. The other two, either squad or straight in, depending on what Eustace wants to do. Players gone out. Looks like Sonny Bradley's gone. He's experienced, but probably a bit too slow for the Championship. Now, then again, Danny Batt's not exactly blistering pace, is he? Wendy, I don't want you closing my leg, thank you. One of my cats, big furry one. Who else has gone? Mendes Lang. He's built like a brick wall, is that guy, isn't he? Varkison, Washington, Hendrick, Peters, Roof. Had Kemar Roof gone to Derby? I didn't even know. Former Leeds player. So they've let a lot of experience go actually. So maybe this is why they're replacing it with other experienced players. Like almost every player that's gone is in their 30s. But the players they brought in are you know they're decent championship level. There's not a chance that they trouble the top half. I think they could survive though. So I'll put Derby. I'll put Derby in the bottom half for now. Hull. God, blimey. There's some transfer activity going on here, albeit a lot of them are returning loans, so we'll scrap all them. Right, so who's all brought in? Gustavo Puerta, Reda Lalui, Semi Ajayi, Dylan Phillips. So Phillips is a fairly experienced goalkeeper, but I would think he's probably coming in to be a backup. Ajayi could possibly get into the starting lineup, experienced centre back at this level. The other two are kids, just 21 and 20, so you know that you're relying on maybe a little bit of, hopefully a little bit of flair, a little bit of quality that they're not going to have a lot of fear of being that young, are they? So. But only really like out of those four, there's only Ajayi really that's going to be like a solid addition so far. In terms of players out, Simons has gone, Joe Pedro's gone, albeit he was getting on a bit. Amrabat's gone. He's been around the block. I think he's 38 now. Good God. Rakiopi, I think he was a backup possibly. They don't seem to have lost too many like key players, but they haven't really brought in any either. So I'm going to say bottom half for Hull. At the minute, Ili Chali, the owner, is going to have to dig deep into his pockets and bring in some extra squad depth because it's a little bit on average side, isn't it? Really. Moving on to Ipswich, so one of the bigger boys, as they've just come down from the Premier League. According to this, I don't think they've actually signed anyone yet. Wow. Okay. Well, so this changes things a little. I was kind of expecting Ipswich to have made some signings, but according to Transfermarkt, it doesn't look like they've actually signed anyone. Not anyone new, anyway. There's a couple of half decent loans that have come back. What about players out? Well, they were always losing Delap anyway, and they've brought in about 30 million quid, 35 million euro. So that plus the parachute payments will give them enough money to be able to enhance the squad if they want to. I've heard rumours that they want to re-sign Kajust and possibly get him in on a permanent. They had him on loan from Napoli. But looking at it, everything else, Harness is gone, Burgess has gone, Twanzebi's gone, Luongo's gone. So bar Delap, they haven't really lost anyone of any major note, have they? They'll probably want to try and keep McKenna, the manager. So I'll say a playoff for Ipswich, just because I thought they would have made some sense. If they'd made a couple of quality signings by now, I would probably have had them in the top two. But for now, just because the squad's very samey, you know what I mean? There's nothing different. Nothing that's going to kind of enhance. I mean, so many of the signings they made last season were with the Championship in mind, that it was going to be very difficult to get safety in the Premier League. So if we get relegated, let's make sure we're getting relegated with a stronger squad than the one we went up with, which obviously is massively stronger than what it was, with some of the major signings they made. So definite playoff. Might even still bump them up to promoted, but I'll see. I'll wait on that one. Leicester, they're screwed at the moment, because apparently they could be in for a walloping points deduction. Like, really bad. Bad. Not good. Not good at all. So, they haven't signed anyone, which, again, don't really go in their favour. Players that they've lost. Well, Vardy's actually left them now. Okay, wasn't aware of that. And then the two Dans, both goalkeepers actually, Iverson and Ward, are both out the door. Iverson's rejoined Preston after he had a loan spell a couple of years ago with them, and Ward's gone to Wrexham. So I mean, it's experience at Wrexham, but he. You know, when you look at it, it's not like Ward had a really bad season, didn't he? At one point, and absolutely tarnished his reputation. He was really bad, wasn't he? The rest of these are loans. They ended up getting Hudson Edouard on loan, didn't they? From a Celtic fella. Yeah. Buonanotte back to Brighton. Yeah. It depends on the size of their points deduction, but because they've been breaking rules for a few seasons now, it's going to be hefty, isn't it? So for now, do we put them in relegation zone? Is it going to be that bad? I don't know. I still haven't decided who's going to be top 2. Wow. I'm going to come back to Leicester. Don't know yet. Or am I? The squad should be good enough for top 6. But with all the rubbish that's going on in the background, and with a possible hefty points deduction from what I've been hearing, you know, could be double figures. You know, the points deduction could be double figures. I mean, if it's single figures, they've got a chance probably still a top 6. But if they end up with a double figure points deduction, that could be a mega struggle. And then at that point, you're looking at either bottom half or relegation. You have to be. I mean, could Leicester really do the double like Luton did and go all the way down? Oh, I don't know. I'll come back to him, but I don't know. Middlesbrough. So Middlesbrough got rid of Carrick in end, didn't they? And considering the so-called quality that the squad had, massively underachieved. Massively. Now, as things stand at the moment, they've just brought in a young goalkeeper called Owen Foster. He's only 20 years old, so he's not going to feature. Players out. They've just sold Josh Coburn, he's a bit of a beast, isn't he? He's a big lad. He's been sold permanently to Millwall. Dijksteel's gone. Well, he was average anyway. Guitar, I don't think he ever featured. Not very much anyway. And then rest were loans. So, Middlesbrough. I mean, again, they're another club that hasn't really done anything yet. Apart from change the manager. Are they going to be good enough for... I mean, I guess rest at squad's still pretty good, but they're probably going to lose Hackney. Who's one of their better players, and he's going to go for like 20 mil. And that'll give the club obviously a lot of money to invest in some new players. For now, I'm going to say Middlesbrough top half. For now, might give them playoff. I think now that they've got someone in, they're gonna have a new manager, so Carrick's out the door. So I think that helps, as long as the new manager ends up being better and getting a better tune out of those players. Because again, the overall quality of the squad's one of the better ones in the division. But yeah, let's move on to Millwall. As we just mentioned, they've brought in Coburn and an experienced goalkeeper in Crocombe, but he is lower level. Brought him in from Burton, so he'll be a backup. Coburn was on loan with them. According to this, he's still only 22, so he could have a lot of. He could have a lot of potential, but I think at the moment he's a good target man, but I don't think he's a prolific goal scorer. And I think if Millwall are going to do anything, they're going to need more goals. Defensively, I think they were very good, but again, they might lose. Is it Tanganga or something? He was one of the better defenders in Division 1, and he's probably going to go. I think he's got a really small release clause, only like 1.5 mil. Or 2 million maximum or something, so they're going to lose him on cheap. So I'm going to say bottom half for Millwall, because I think they're going to struggle. Lose Tanganga and not really bring in a more solid goal scorer. I think Millwall might struggle. I mean they've lost Fleming now. He's been signed by Burnley on a permanent because Burnley got promoted. By the looks of it, it's only going to work out about 5 million. They're reckoning 8.3 million euros, so it probably works out about 5 mil. Which again it's still money they can invest in a couple of players, and they haven't really done it yet. Apart from making Coburn's one permanent. There's no one else that's gone out. Like Saville's gone, Wallace has gone, Honeyman's gone. I mean, they're all quite experienced. Connolly's gone, but he didn't score a lot of goals, did he? Hutchinson's experienced, he's gone. Watmore. Yeah, they've lost a lot of experienced players, so there's nothing suggesting to me that Millwall's going to finish top half with that at the moment. Norwich, they've got a new manager, haven't they? They've signed a kid from Man City for a couple of million euro. Transfer marks in euros rather than pounds. Apologies if anyone's wondering. They brought in this kid from Man City called Jacob Wright. They brought in Kovacevic, who was a goalkeeper from Sporting Lisbon. That could be quite a good signing, you would think. Probably coming in as first choice, you would think. I think didn't they lose Gunn? So he's probably replacing Gunn, isn't he? Jakov Medic, coming in from Ajax. Again, could be quite an exciting signing, that one. Could be quite solid for this level. Darling from Swansea's been around a little bit now. He's 25. He's experienced, so that'll tighten up the back line as well, you would hope. Because that was their problem last season. They were dreadful. Absolutely dreadful. Defensively. Like, obviously attacking, they had Sargent and Signs, but I mean, and let's face it, they're probably going to lose both of those, aren't they? They're going to lose Signs and Sargent. So they're going to have to reinforce things that way. Grimshaw's coming on in goal as well. I mean, I think Kovacevic will be Kovacevic. He's going to be first choice with Grimshaw as backup, I would think, at Norwich. And they signed Louis Malden as well from Palace's under-21s, albeit he's 23 now. So literally 3 new goalkeepers. But that'll be the goalkeeping team. Looking at it all, they've literally they've invested massively on defensive reinforcements, which is what Norwich needed to do. It doesn't seem like a bad set of players. Players going out. It looks like Marseille's made the transfer of Johnny Rowe permanent, about 14 million euros, so about 10-11 million quid. And then Sorensen has left, Mayor's left, Gunn's left, Hernandez has left, finally. Feels like he's been at Norwich ages. So I would say with that, aside from Gunn and maybe Hernandez, they haven't lost anyone key, and they have brought in some defensive reinforcements, which suggests also then that they still have Signs and Sargent. Now, if there was any chance at all that they could keep those two, you'd have to say, could Norwich possibly scrape 6th place? But I don't see them keeping Signs and Sargent. I don't see any possible universe that those two stay. But then they, between the two of them, they'll bring in a solid chunk of money that then hopefully, for Norwich's sake, they'll spend and reinvest and get even more players, because they're going to need to bring in some firepower. If they lose both of those, they're buggered up front, aren't they? But on basis, according to Transfermarkt, those two are still Norwich players. God, do we give Norwich an outside chance of 6th? I'm going to put them there for now. God, imagine that, an Ipswich-Norwich playoff final, eh? That'd be tasty. Oxford, they finished the season quite well, didn't they? Like, they brought Rowett in, and he tidied them up, got them playing quite well. But they haven't made any signings, and the players that have left, I mean, I heard that Rodriguez was half decent. He's gone. McEachran's past his best now. I think they could stay up again. I'll say bottom half. I don't think that's unrealistic for Oxford. I don't think they'll trouble the top half, but I think they'll be solid enough. I think it'll be like another like this time they won't be dragged into a relegation battle. I think they'll probably learn from that experience from last season and stay up comfortably. But they won't be top half yet, I don't think. Moving on to Portsmouth, who was another one of the new boys from last season, along with Oxford. Brought in a young winger, Segacic. I don't know if I'm pronouncing these names right, because I hadn't heard of these players. I haven't got a clue who they are. But he's come in. Who have they lost? Yengi Sadie, Milosevic, Scully, Bramall and Lowry. I don't think any of those featured all that much, did they? I don't know, maybe Yengi did. But I don't think they've lost anyone key. Like, they haven't lost Bishop or anything. I'll say bottom half for Portsmouth as well. So similar to Oxford, I think they'll be fine. They're not going to get dragged in. I think they kept Mazzinho, didn't they? I think the manager stayed, didn't he? So I'm comfortable with that. Preston. So let's have a look. They brought a few players in actually. A little bit of transfer movement, which can't be of any harm to them. Brought in that Theory Small from Charlton. He's, as I said before, he's quite highly rated. A little bit raw, but he'll get better. The left back. Valentin, the former Sheffield Wednesday player. I mean, he's experienced, isn't he? I don't think he's going to set the world alight, but he's got experience. At 28 now. As I said, they brought in Iverson, who was a bit of a fan favourite for his loan spell a couple of seasons previous, so I think Preston will be quite happy with that addition. Jordan Thompson's arrived from Stoke. Again, he's got a decent amount of experience now at 28. And they brought in that young Jefferson, the striker, as well. Former Sheffield United and Bournemouth. I think he's just coming on loan. So it's probably time that Jefferson started manning up a little in terms of more goal scoring output, because he's he's actually a bit like, it feels like he's been around a long time, even though he's only 21. But he was highly rated, wasn't he? So yeah, maybe this is the season where Jefferson, he's probably coming in as a squad striker, but he'll be there or thereabouts. So it's a lot of defensive reinforcement there. A couple of fullbacks and a goalkeeper, one midfielder and a probably a squad striker. In terms of players out, I mean, Reece, he's hot and cold when it comes to goals. As we mentioned earlier, he's gone to Bristol City. Ledson, quite experienced at this level now, but he's gone down to League One. Woodman, the goalkeeper, he's gone, but they've replaced him with Everson, who's possibly a better goalkeeper anyway. Leighton Stewart's gone. I don't think he featured much today. Patrick Bauer, he's quite an experienced player now. He's been let go. Kian Best as well. He's a kid, but he's been around a little bit, hasn't he? So Preston, where are we going to put Preston? You see, we've only got 2 places left for the top half, with a couple of playoffs and a pair of promoted teams. Whereas we've got 6 bottom halves and 2 relegations. So a fair old chunk of these remaining ones are going to have to go bottom half. And looking at who's remaining, who's going to finish in that top half? That's the crucial thing. And also who's going to finish it, even higher up. That's the other thing. I'll say for now, Preston bottom half, but I think they'll be top end bottom half, a bit like Blackburn. I think they'll be top end bottom half. I'm not overly convinced with Heckingbottom as a manager, so yeah, I'm comfortable with that. QPR, what have they done? Looks like they've made the loan of Dembele permanent. They brought in that Poku kid from Peterborough, who's quite highly rated. He was one of League One's best players, wasn't he? Mbenga's joined from Reading, and a youngster called Adamson, who's coming from Australia by the looks of it. Yeah, I think like Dembele's highly rated, isn't he? And then Poku as well as a raw talent, isn't he? So let's see who they've lost. Have they lost anyone of any note? They've let Kenneth Powell go. That's surprising. He was one of their better players, I thought. Certainly statistically, Powell was a top half left back. You know, so that's surprising. I thought they'd have tried to keep him. Anderson, the experienced midfielder, I mean, he was in and out of the team, wasn't he? I think he had an injury as well or something. So, and a couple of relatively young goalkeepers, 24 and 23-year-old Shepherd and Cooper. They've gone. Yeah, I'm not all that convinced with QPR. I don't think, like, you know, it's all kind of very young players. I think maybe one or two experienced ones would be useful, and they're going to have to replace Powell, who I thought was one of their better players, certainly from a defensive point of view. So I'm going to put QPR bottom half. I don't think that's unrealistic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So we've only got one more for the bottom half, which means all of this crazy bunch is going to be top half at this rate. Wow. Getting down to nitty gritty here, aren't we? Okay. Sheffield United, new manager, Sellers. Did alright at Hull, actually. Surprised that they ditched him. Brought in someone called Ukaki, but he's young. He's only a 20-year-old right winger. Sorry. Players out. Brewster's gone. Well, he was a waste of time, wasn't he? Spent a lot of money on him and all. But he's the only one out as well. And again, they've kind of, you know, their squad really. I mean, and they did have a good season. So they've got, I mean, again, out with those loans, Suter and Gilchrist and Raksaki and Diaz and Chowdhury and Clark and Holding. That's a lot of experience gone. They were all in. Were they all in on loan? That's crazy. Wow. So it's a bit of a rebuild, isn't it, for Sheffield United? I mean, I'll still put them playoff. I think it would be a little foolish to put them lower, because the rest of the squad's still going to be half decent. And Sellers, I don't think, is a bad manager. He's done okay where he's been for the most part. Sheffield Wednesday, I've got to put them bottom because, a bit like Leicester, there's so much turmoil going on there right now, isn't there? It's awful. So forget the transfers. There's no new arrivals at all. Wow. That's crazy. And I mean, they're going to be losing so many other players. I mean, oh Christ, look at it. Oh wow. There's a chunk of them gone. Yeah, I'm just going to move on. Sheffield Wednesday need to sort out their stuff to have any chance of staying up. This is terrible for them. They're done. Moving on to Southampton. Just brought in the young German lad Quashy. I mean, if he's anything like Bela Kotchap, who was the last German centre back youngster that came in, then they've got one hell of a player there, haven't they, really? Because he was highly rated as well. Looks like they spent maybe around 2 or 3 million on him. So reasonable chunk of change. But they are a parachute team, so they'll have the money. No one else in yet, but again, I mean, they were dreadful in the Premier League, weren't they, Southampton? But I mean, so was Sheffield Wednesday the previous season, and they bounced back and had a very good season. So it would be very foolish to put them anywhere outside of the top 6, as things currently stand. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, because I've just seen who's left. I'm gonna have to rejig some stuff here with the teams that are left. I am gonna put, for now, Leicester relegated, because like Sheffield Wednesday, they're like, if they get, this is based on if they get a whopping points deduction. Alright? I mean, the club's being run tin pot right now as it is anyway. Why the hell they thought Van Nistelrooy was going to be good enough to keep him up is anyone's guess anyway. Terrible appointment. You know, they've opted to not keep Vardy, or Vardy's decided to leave, or whatever the case. And I mean, I know Vardy's like ancient now, but he still knows where the goal is. God, never thought I'd be saying Leicester City parachute payment going in relegation zone, but I don't think I've got any option. So Southampton, for now, I'll put in playoff. I think a couple of those are going to get bumped up. I think a couple of these are going to get bumped up to promoted. I just haven't decided which two yet. Right, so that's Southampton. Yeah, in terms of players out, like, I mean, Lumley's gone, but I mean that's not going to affect him. Onuachu, he were a bit of a beast, wasn't he? But I don't think he was that prolific for him, and he is getting on slightly. He's 31 now. Walker Peters, I mean that's a big loss for them. So it's still only 28. So he's going to be a free transfer for wherever he goes. He might get picked up by Burnley or Sunderland, maybe, or something like that. Maybe even Leeds might look at him if he's free. I don't know. I don't really want to be signing players that have gotten relegated personally for Leeds, but I just think we need to aim a lot higher. There's a reason why these players got relegated. Lallana's gone, but I mean he's retired now. I'm not surprised. 37 now. Yeah, so they haven't really lost anyone key apart from Kyle Walker Peters, have this. They haven't replaced him yet. There's plenty of time. Stoke. Brought in Sorba Thomas from Huddersfield. I mean, he's not too bad. Out, they've let go Thompson, Ennis, Gooch, Rose, Stevens. You see, I think Stoke are going to struggle. I really do. Like, there's every chance they'll get relegated. I'm going to put them bottom half. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. So that the entire bottom half is taken up now. So we might need to do some rejigging here. We may need to do some rejigging. In fact, I'm almost certain we're going to need to do some rejigging here. Swansea, they've brought in, let's have a look here, they've brought in a left winger called Inusa. Chunk of change spent on him as well, by the looks of it. €6 million, so about 4 million quid. Where's Swansea got the money for that? Who've they sold? A Scottish player called Bobby Wales. Well, that's a right name for a Scottish player, isn't it? He's only a kid, he's 20. Ricardo Santos. So that's the Bolton fella. Right. I mean, he's 30-year-old, so he's not a youngster. They brought in Burgess, who's fairly experienced. He's coming from Ipswich. I mean, you'd expect someone like Burgess to probably replace Darling, wouldn't you? I don't think Santos is going to be of the level to replace him. In terms of players out, so Darling's the big one out. Joe Allen's retired, so that's no major loss. And Kyle Norton's finally left. Good God, he's been there a long time, hasn't he? There's quite a bit of experience that's left now, actually. So, you know, along with Darling, he was probably the one they didn't want to lose. He's gone to Norwich. Norton, Cyrus Christie, another experienced player, the right back, he's gone now. I can't believe he's 32 now, Christ. McLaughlin, he's been a backup goalkeeper for God knows how long. He's 37 now. Pedersen, experienced left back. God, he's 30 now. Wow. Can Swansea really get top half with that? I'm not super convinced. I'm going to make some changes here, right? So, going back up, or going up, I'm going to bump up Norwich won't get auto, so it's between the other three. Because I've looked at the teams that are remaining, and I don't think any of them get auto either. So it's got to be between the other. It's got to be between these three. Don't know why. Ipswich's squad. They did buy some big championship hitters, didn't they? And if they keep all of those, the squad should annihilate. But then who pips it between Sheffield United, who don't have Wilder anymore and have lost a whole bunch of them loan signings, or Southampton, who need to find some confidence from somewhere? Or do we go with one of the remaining teams? And then who do we bump up further? Tough one is this. So I'm going to... Oh man, this is close. Just because I think it might be quite a rebuild at Sheffield United again, because they had so many on loan. For now, I'm going to say Ipswich and Southampton are back up. As much as an Ipswich-Norwich playoff would have been cool. Right. Bear with me with Swansea for a minute, right? So, if we move on to Watford, because they got rid of Cleverley and brought someone new in as well, didn't they? Cipriano, the Peterborough midfielder, he's not a bad little pickup. Baxter, the goalkeeper's okay. Boller from Samson Spor, he's a left back. I haven't heard of him, I don't think so. Not a lot of quality incomings from Watford. In terms of players going out, Sierralta's left him. God, he's been there a while, hasn't he? Oh, Bonner's gone, but he's 37 now. So they haven't really lost anyone either, have they? Like, not that much. Like, it's not enough to really affect the squad. West Brom. Let's just have a look at them quickly. Brought in Nat Phillips. That's a decent pickup. And he's effectively replacing Semi Ajayi. Diangana's left him. Swift's left him. Again, like Diangana had been there a long time, hadn't he? Swift didn't have the same season last season that he had the season before when he was really good. And Ted Can's a relatively young goalkeeper. So he's not going to be of any loss to them. And then let's have a look at Wrexham. So Wrexham have been linked with all these really experienced players, you know, like former Premier League players and top-end Championship players. But so far, they've only brought in Ryan Hardy, the striker, and Danny Ward, the goalkeeper. Players out. Stephen Fletcher's gone, but he's 38 years old now. Good God. Mullins been there a while. He's League One level, isn't he, really? Howard, the goalkeeper. I mean, again, he's been around ages. But again, there's a lot of hype about Wrexham, isn't there? There's a lot of hype about Wrexham. Again, they've got the financial clout and they need to spend it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put Wrexham in top half as well. Just because I think that, you know, with their financial backing, they could chuck it at anybody. You know, they're nearly as well off as Birmingham in theory. So West Brom, like they, you know, it's just that one defensive reinforcement into that they've done, but it's a very decent one. And I tip West Brom to do quite well every season, and most of the time they do. So I'm going to put West Brom playoff again, because it's a settled squad, isn't it? They've only, they've replaced Ajayi with Phillips, and Phillips is better than Ajayi. So, you know, that they've only really got to replace Diangana, who last season was very hot and cold. So then this just leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So the bottom half are all filled up, including relegation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So we've got one top half and one playoff. Now, do I think that Swansea or Watford could get in the playoff? No. So that means one more bumper upper. Let me go back to Bristol City for a minute. Could they repeat what they've just done? What's happened with their squad? Let me just remind myself. All the way back up. Here we go. They've done a little bit of incoming, haven't they? So, you know, they've enhanced the squad a little bit. And they haven't really lost anyone that's going to cause them any kind of difficulty. So it is an improvement. So I think I'm going to put Bristol up there again. Now, do Swansea and Watford both get in the top half? Or do we bump a couple of the bottom half guys up? This is the question. So, how about... So when I look at it here, two teams to join these four in the top half. Is it both Swansea and Watford? What was Swansea's incomings again? They've lost Darling, who's quite a loss to them, and they're not getting much money either, if anything. I don't think they're getting any money, are they? So, see, they've spent quite big on this Inusa, this left winger. He's 23-year-old, Swedish, and what is he? He's part Swedish, part... Is it going to show him the flag on here? I don't think it is. Part African, part Scandinavian. Let's just call it that. And they've signed him from Häcken in the Swedish league. But it's a fair chunk of change, a couple of million on him. They've reinforced the centre-back position, so they haven't lost out by losing Darling. They've replaced it with Burgess. Should be a solid enough replacement. Brought in Santos maybe as a backup. And the rest of the players that have gone, they're kind of like aging, experienced guys. So if we then just go back to Watford, I wouldn't say their incomings are that great, really. Like, they're okay, but they're not fantastic. So who were the teams that I said could possibly sneak into the top half based on based on the dealings that had gone on. Was Blackburn one of them? Let's scroll back up to their transfer business. Blackburn. They brought in a couple of foreign lads that they brought in, wasn't it? Who have they lost? Pretty much just Bat and Vyman, wasn't it? But they did have a good season in the end. Like they kind of pushed on a bit. Then you got the likes of Millwall, who are perennial mid-tablers, and I'm not totally convinced on the rest of them, and I'm not totally convinced that Swansea and Watford finished top half. I think they might be top of the bottom half. So do I think that a couple of these could finish top half? Let's bump up Blackburn and Millwall. Maybe Coburn has his breakthrough season now. Well, not breakthrough, but has his first good goal scoring season. And then if we put Swansea at the top of the bottom half along with Watford. Right, let's make sure this is right then. So three getting relegated, that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in the rest of the bottom half, that's right. Rest of the top half, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yes. 4 for the playoffs and 2 automatic promotion. Right, you know what? I'm okay with that. Taking me over an hour to get there, Jesus. I really don't have a lot of knowledge on the Championship now that my team Leeds are out of it. But I don't think that this is a bad initial judgment on it. You know, maybe Norwich is a bit of an outside bet for the top 6. It didn't really work with that Thorpe fella, did it? Really. But they've massively reinforced in terms of the number of players, at least, the goalkeeping and defensive areas, which is what they needed to improve on. And it's on the basis that so far, Saints and Sargent, sorry. Oh Christ, I'm having one of them today. Are still there. Now, if they lose both of those, which we're anticipating that they will do, they'll have money to reinvest, but then I would probably swap them with one of those in the rest of the top half. But for now, I'm alright with where everyone's at. Now, I haven't placed these in league position, these are just the areas of the table that I'm putting them in for now. So it could be a mixture. And some of those in the top half could replace those in the playoffs. Couple of them in playoffs could replace the promoted ones. You know, bottom half relegated. And with Leicester, you'd expect Leicester to be higher if they don't get a walloping with the points deduction. The squad should still be way strong enough for at least top 6, you would think. But on the basis that I think they're going to get a real walloping, that's why I'm putting Leicester relegated. You know, I mean, because it depends on the size of the walloping, doesn't it? You know, if they only get deducted a couple of points like Sheffield United, then you'd expect them to be top 6. If they get a 10, 12, 15 point deduction, you know, like, it's a big chunk to catch up early on, isn't it? And if they don't get their stuff settled very, very soon and very, very quickly, then, you know, they're screwed. And let's not even go there with Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, my God, they are in so much trouble. Like, you know, because I thought Bannon had already left, but according to Transfermarkt, he's not on there yet. But I thought he'd gone. So yeah, there we have it, folks. So maybe 1 or 2 surprising ones on that list in terms of the positioning. I'll do another championship, like an official championship prediction, probably the day before the season starts, like I've done before, because by that time you would think that teams will have made most of their transfer business by then. You know, teams don't really like bringing players in when the season's already started. Sometimes if you're waiting for like an ideal transfer, or if there's something a bit complicated, they can join later on in the season, before the transfer window shuts, but by that point you would like to think that teams have made their decisions by then. So, with that in mind, as you can see, two of the relegated teams, I think they'll go straight back up. I think the squads will probably be too strong, especially Ipswich. They're going to keep the likes of Clark and Smodics and all the other top end Championship players that they bought when they got promoted, for big money. And then Southampton should still have a decent squad for this level. But I think it could be close between Southampton and Sheffield United for second. West Brom is a little bit of an outside shout, along with Bristol. And then you've got the two promoted boys, Birmingham and Wrexham, who are absolutely massively financially backed, aren't they? There's people that are tipping Birmingham and Wrexham for the top six. I think that's a bit far-fetched. It's not just about spending money, it's about getting the right quality in. And that, to me, I think, could those two clubs get blinded by the idea of bringing in, former Premier League players and expensive imports from abroad and things like that? I mean, is that really the way to go? I don't know. I think just aiming to get some very good top end Championship players is probably would be the right way to go, in my opinion. But I don't own either club, so I'm not famous, so therefore I don't get money the way that those owners of those two clubs do. So, with that in mind, I think that my predictions are pretty sound. You know what? I will position them actually. Why not? I will position them. I'll put Ipswich first and Southampton second. Third then would be Sheffield United. I'll go fourth West Brom. Fifth Norwich if they keep those two major players up front and keep reinforcing that back line, which they have done so far. Bristol sixth. Just purely on the financial clout, I'm going to say Birmingham 7th, Wrexham 8th, just because of what they can financially bring in. I think Middlesbrough will have an improvement now that they've ditched Carrick. Then Coventry, because they've still got a solid squad, and then I think Blackburn just ahead of Millwall. Bottom half, there was a couple of teams I said would probably be closer to the top of this, wasn't there? So let's go. So I think Swansea probably will. They improved quite a lot, didn't they? And then I don't know. I think Preston might do okay. They've made a little bit of movement in the transfer market, haven't they? So I think they might do all right. Hull's got some financial clout with their owner. He will bring players in, so I'll bump them up a little bit. I think Stoke go down if Leicester don't. Stoke are so bad. They keep flattering to deceive. They keep having really dodgy seasons. I think it's going to be a transition season for QPR because they haven't got Cifuentes, the manager, anymore, have they? So I think that's going to be a bit of a transitional job. Rowett made Oxford very solid, didn't he? So I'm going to bump them up a place. Portsmouth have some firepower with Bishop. I'll bump them up. It would possibly be a bit harsh to have Watford that low down. I think it's a transition for QPR having that new manager because they had Cifuentes for a couple of seasons. So I think maybe they do have a little bit of a transition. So it's same with Watford actually. They've just brought in a new one, and you never know what these Pozzo owners are going to be like because the Pozzos ended up keeping Cleverly, but then they sacked him after the season finished. So maybe that's a bit of a transition as well. I think I'm going to keep it like that. I'm probably been a bit generous to Hull there. They didn't show any evidence that they're actually going to do that well last season. But again, they've got an ambitious owner, so he's going to pump some money into the club, whether it be transfers or loans, you would think. And then with the bottom ones, I mean, well, when's he at bottom? they're screwed. They're not. The players aren't being paid, for Christ's sake. They're not going to have a squad. You know, there'll be a squad full of kids. Leicester, I'll swap them with Charlton. Is this going to let me? Come on, swap. Oh my word. Right, there we go. The swapping of those logos was terrible. I just think Charlton need to boost their squad. It's still very League One-y, for want of another phrase. And I'd say, like, I would drop Stoke, and Leicester would be considerably further up. But it's dependent on that points deduction. And there's still a lot of turmoil going on at the club, even if they don't get much of a points deduction. I just think Leicester are being run very badly at the minute. So, yeah, that's my take on that. But yeah, those are all kind of positioned now. I don't think I'm a million miles off. I'm a little bit hesitant with Preston and Hull over the likes of QPR and Watford. Do I bump those two? Derby's brought in some experience, haven't they, which might help them. No, I'll stick with it. I'll stick with it like that for now. As I say, I'll do a more detailed reaction to the transfers, and I'll have a bigger, deeper look into the actual squads as well at that point when I do my next championship prediction, which, as I say, will be like about a day before the season starts. But I don't think I'm going to, these are all positioned now, so from top to bottom, from left to right. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, etc. Going all the way down to Wednesday in 20th. So yeah, there we go. So do please post your thoughts down in the comments below. Apologies for it being a bit of a long one. This one, I had to have a look at some of the transfers and everything, and they kind of and ah about a few teams and all this kind of thing. But Championship's not my strong point for this new season going forward, because my club leagues are now in the Premier League, so I will be doing a bit more of an in-depth kind of thing with the Premier League for this next coming season. Did I do an early Premier League prediction video? I think I did, actually. Yeah, so check that out as well if you want to have a look at that. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did a really early Premier League prediction. So yeah, have a look at that. If you like this kind of football content, I'll keep churning some of this out. We'll get some more prediction videos, and I'll keep churning out the Leeds United ones as well. I enjoy doing the Leeds United ones, to be fair. So yeah, I'll get those out in the coming days and weeks. In terms of the video game streaming, I am trying to get the motivation to come back to doing more of that again. It's the video game streaming is my bread and butter in terms of streaming and doing videos and stuff. That's where I started my streaming journey, and it has veered off due to a lack of motivation in recent times. So I will try and get back onto that if I can find the motivation from somewhere. Because I do have days where I miss it, and then there's other days when I'm like, no, it's not going to be today. It is difficult, unfortunately. The motivation has gone really flat. However, I'll find it from somewhere. But in the meantime, big thank you for watching. Do please give the video a thumbs up like. And if you haven't already, do please subscribe to the channel. With all this being said, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you in the next stream or video. Bye for now.